Well, today is a historic day for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, known as NATO, as Finland joins the world's largest security alliance. Now, it has become the 31st member country. Finland shares over 1,300 kilometers of border with Russia, and its accession to the military alliance more than doubles NATO's border along Russia. It comes as Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the Kremlin's concerns about NATO's expansion. Finland's journey to accession lasted less than a year, and today's historic ceremony at NATO headquarters coincides with the 74th anniversary of the alliance's founding in 1949. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has said that this step will make Finland safer and NATO stronger. Well, joining us now to unpack this historic event is Mr. Bradley Bowman, Senior Director of the Center on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Mr. Bowman, welcome back to Forum Daily.
Thank you.
So, how big of an impact will Finland's membership have on the strength of the NATO alliance itself?
I think it'll have a big impact. I think the bottom line here is that Finland and Sweden, for that matter, eyed Putin's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine, the largest invasion in Europe since World War II, and realized that these sorts of things are not relegated to the black and white news wheels of the first half of the 20th century, and that Putin tends to invade countries that are not members of NATO. Think Georgia 2008, Ukraine since 2014. And the Kremlin tends not to mess with members of NATO. So any reasonable nation state actor looking at that pattern would say, hey, I want to be in NATO too. And so that's why those two countries set aside decades long or longer policies of essential neutrality and applied for admission to the alliance, which arguably has been the most powerful and significant alliance, or at least one of them in history.
And this is quite the expansion for NATO. We mentioned that this doubles the military alliance's border with Russia. So what does this mean for Europe's security landscape against Russia and potential moves by NATO on that very border?
It's an interesting question. Some who are not as strong supporters of the transatlantic alliance as I am have suggested that this is a liability. I don't view Finland's accession to NATO as a liability. I view it as a strategic asset, and including that border, right? We have to manage that carefully, in terms of what non-Finland military capabilities you put near that border. We want to be respectful of concerns, but let's not play into Vladimir Putin's cynical talking points. NATO is not Nazi Germany in terms of the threat to Russia. NATO is not Napoleon. NATO is a defensive alliance, and there's no evidence to suggest otherwise. The reason Putin doesn't like NATO enlargement is because once a country becomes a member of the alliance, he can no longer bully, coerce, and invade them. That's why he doesn't like NATO enlargement. And so if he's contemplating additional aggression elsewhere, say in the Black Sea region, he now has to wonder about what Finland might do as a member of the alliance. And some might respond and say, well, Finland's worked with the alliance forever. Yes, they have. But once they're in the alliance, you can write them into the war plans. And Russia knows that. And that creates dilemmas that Russian leaders and military planners have to consider that make it less likely that they'll conduct additional aggression in the future.
So what do you see as the next steps for Finland following its accession into NATO?
I think it really is this deeper integration of its military capabilities, its planning, working it into these war plans and more intense exercises, and really bringing in Sweden in as much as we can. Unfortunately, Hungary and Turkey, I would say, have been unhelpful, if I'm being polite, when it comes to Sweden. I'm hopeful that that will be resolved soon. But really, this is about Article 5. An attack against one is attack against all. Finland today is now safer. Europe is safer, and Canadians and Americans, I would say, are safer because we have a more unified and capable alliance now with Finland in it, and that would be Finland in it, and that would be even more true if we add Sweden soon.
Yes, just about a minute left here, but I definitely do want to touch on the situation with Sweden. So as you said, Turkey and Hungary have yet to ratify their application. How do you see this progressing in the near future? Do you still see stiff opposition this year?
I think my sense is that Sweden has been trying to interact with Ankara in good faith. And I think Erdogan is frankly using this for domestic political benefit. This is not the first time that we've seen Ankara, a NATO ally, I would say, not acting like one. I'm thinking of the acquisition of the S-400 air and missile defense system from Russia. It's kind of odd for an ally to acquire an air missile defense system from the leading threat to the alliance. And so this is kind of more the same, unfortunately, from Erdogan. It remains to be seen whether he's an anomaly or a sign of things to come for Turkey. But I hope enough appropriate political pressure would be applied to get Hungary and Turkey to give the thumbs up to Sweden, because, as I said, I think it's good for transatlantic security.
Lots to keep our eyes on. Again, Mr. Bowman, we appreciate your time on Forum Daily.
Thank you.